YouTube, Sister Kate here, and today I'm doing something called racking the ale. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a tube right there and a jar. Am I getting that in there? Tube and a jar. I started making ale like 4 weeks ago, and I got my inspiration from a set of videos called the Tudor Farm that's on YouTube, and I think it was a BBC show. And actually, they have three sets of 6 videos for Tudor Farm, Victorian Farm, and Edwardian Farm. And in it, they cover a lot of skills that are relevant to off-grid living people. They do everything from planting crops to taking care of animals to trying to do things that gets them money. Like the one lady picks flowers and they send the flowers off to London and they get paid for that. Another fellow tries to do a trout farm in a creek. It's just really interesting and very varied. And one of the things the lady did, I think her name is Ruth, she said, "Oh, I'm going to make some ale for Christmas." And I thought, okay. And she said, "That's like in a week and a half away." And I thought, wow, you can make ale in a week and a half? And I want to get this straight to you all. I don't drink beer. I don't drink hardly anything ever. I have a special bottle of Hennessy that I take a swig out of when I have a really horrible day or a really good day. So I drink out of that bottle like 4 times a year. Anyway, the thing that got me really curious was that I make my own vinegar. And I make kombucha, and so I kind of get it, and I thought, wow, I wonder if ale is like that. And she made it out of barley that they, I think they traded somebody for it. They may have grown it. And she did a thing to the barley called malting, where you make it sprout, and then you like boil it to stop the growth, and then you do a couple of other little things. And I thought, wow, okay, we have barley in bags that someone donated to us. A very kind sister. And so I thought, wow, I've got some of that left over. We had just bucketed that, and I had some of that barley left over, and some of it was malted and some of it wasn't. And so I'm kind of a just try it, don't worry about it person. And so following what she did online, I realized I was not, you know, at least the instructions for making ale were way more complex than I thought they were. But I thought, okay, but she probably didn't do all that stuff there on that show. She probably showed maybe a few of the steps and then maybe skipped a few. One of the things you do with the malted barley after it's been made the little sprouts is you crush it. So I had 5 pounds of barley. I soaked it first. I was trying to get it to sprout, and then I think you dry it as part of the process, and then you're supposed to crush it. So I got my grain mill out and I started to grind it, but it was still wet and it was sticky and it was a mess, and I'm like, I don't want to play with this. And I had been using one of those mortar and pestles. Hang on, I'll go get that real quick. This is a mortar and pestle that Pastor brought back for me from Thailand, and I was putting that wet barley in there and just pounding it, and it was exhausting me. And it was also sticking to everything. So I'd say I probably had maybe a quarter of all my barley where I actually crushed it, and I got so upset about it, I was just like, whatever, I'm just going to do what I think might work. And so I took all of that barley, the crushed and the uncrushed, and following a recipe I found online for like medieval ale, I put it all into containers like this. I got this at Walmart. I think it's a 5-gallon container, and then I poured in succession hot boiling water on it, following that medieval recipe. And then I just let it sit. I had 2 or 3 of those things with the barley in it, and I just let it sit. And I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't know what it's going to do. Well, about the 4th day in, and I think you're only supposed to soak it for 12 hours, I thought, all right, I'm just going to continue on. So then I separated the liquid from the grain with a towel, and I boiled the fluid. And then I boiled in the fluid some sorrel for flavor, because in the video Ruth had put some kind of not hops, but some kind of herb that was tart in there And then she poured the boiled liquid into containers and put some yeast in it. And I had captured some yeast like she did. I just put flour and water out, and it gets yeasty in about a day. So I had captured that yeast, and I put yeast into the bottom of the containers. These, as a matter of fact, you can still see it. It's sitting down there on the bottom, the flour and stuff right there. I put that on the bottom of those, and then I know yeast lives or eats sugar to make alcohol, and the whole barley process was to make the barley like have sugar in it, and I didn't know if I'd completed that, so I dumped like a teaspoon or two of sugar in there, and then I poured that barley water that I had boiled into those containers, and then I dumped a little bit of a yeast packet that's for wine making in 3 different bottles. And one bottle was from the first water coming off the barley, and the other 2 were like from a second rinse. They weren't to be as strong. And so I just let them sit on the counter, and they did start bubbling. So I would burp them every day. And in the video, Ruth said it would take about 10 days to make the ale. So about 10 days in, I went and tasted it, and I'm not a beer drinker, so I'm not sure what it was supposed to taste like, but it did taste kind of like grain. And the bubbling told me that it had to have some alcohol, but I don't think ale is supposed to be very strong. So this is not very strong. So I'm racking that today. Racking it is simply taking it, siphoning it from one bottle into another bottle, and getting it so that that sediment is not in there anymore. So I'm going to try this ale. I'm just experimenting here. I'm not going to sell it. It's for my personal use or taste, just to see if I can do it. And the stronger stuff that I just bottled actually had a froth on it. Oh, I put the bottle in the refrigerator already. It had a little froth on it, and that gave me some hope. So I let Pastor Joe taste it, and he didn't really care for it. But I think I may have done it. So the reason I'm, the thing behind this video is, if I can do something, and I did a really bad job of it, and it still came out okay, if you're interested in that sort of thing, you might want to do some research on your own and maybe give it a try. I don't even know why I did it. I guess because if we got to a point where water was undrinkable, by making it into ale, you can make it drinkable, because when you boil it, you're sterilizing it, and that's what people drank in Tudor England all day long, this very weak ale, because the water in those days was polluted and it would make you very sick. I know this is kind of disjointed, but I just wanted to let you know what I was doing, show you what I was doing today. Bless you. Shalom. Here's the final product. It's been in the fridge. This is the stronger batch. I wanted to let you see it, because this is the final product. And if you think about beer, it's kind of clear, but it's it's kind of brownish, yellowish. See if I can. It kind of gets a little froth on it when you shake it up. And I'm going to do a taste test also. Like I said, I'm not a beer drinker, but this is not beer. See, this is different. Ale does not have the hops in it, so it doesn't have that hopsy flavor. It's hard to describe this flavor. My husband said it tasted like vinegar, but I know what vinegar tastes like. This is not vinegar. But you can tell it has an alcoholic content, because it's got a little bit of that bite to it, but not very much. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this is meant to be sort of weak, because it was something that they would let kids and old people like me drink all day, and you couldn't have schnockered people everywhere in your culture. You never get anything done. This was just a different beverage, sort of like our sodas or our juices. And they didn't boil water for juice, so they didn't drink juice like we drink juice now. Yeah, it's kind of got a salty flavor to it, but there at the end, it's kind of alcohol-y, and it's kind of like, I think it's ale. It's got that aftertaste that's not bitter, but it's still kind of beer-like. Anyway, there it is. That's the final product. If you're interested, I'd suggest you go watch those YouTube videos. Bless you. Shalom.
Sorry.